It's Monday. You know what that means. It's me. It's me. It's Michael B. And thank you so much for being here. And we're going to try to have a fun show tonight talking about a topic that could be a landmine. This could be a grenade, ladies and gentlemen. People may get angry about this, but let's have an open and honest discussion about it and talk about whether or not the home arcade community is too critical of these companies that are making these things for us that kind of brought us all together in the first place. Anyways, I've got a great community member here with me tonight to talk about it. We should have a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Chillin' Chat with Michael B. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined tonight by Galaga Guy 88. Galaga Guy, we met in Cleveland last year. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I am doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. I noticed you have the Galaga hat, you have the Galaga commercial arcade machine, and the shirt. You are rocking it. You are all in on Galaga.
Absolutely, 100%. It is by far my favorite arcade of all time. So
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I like Galaga a lot too. Good choice. That's not a bad one.
Yeah,
So, man,
absolutely. So,
tell me a little
well,
bit.
whenever you invited me on, you were like, "Oh, you want to come on?" I was like, "Yeah." And then you told me the topic, and then I was like,
Damn
"What
it.
did I agree to?"
Yeah, this is a touchy one. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
going to survive this one.
yeah.
Anyways, guys, I'm going to be watching you guys in the chat. I see a lot of my friends here, good people. Jason, our moderator's here. Chaotic BPR, I got to get you on sometime too, brother. Ted Adam Green, Thumper Squid, MSU Rich, Houston Amusements, Ritual Delos here, Stock Jock, if I haven't said him already. James Hates Everything, he's been on the show before. Addicted to Arcade1Up, great member. My buddy, the Garage Gamers here. Who else we got? Alfred Berger, Nicholas Diorio, Let Them Overreact, proves you're right anyways. Who else? Headshake TV, Cornercade's here, Ninja Cat. Cornercade, you're one of the reasons I'm doing this tonight. Galaga Guy 88 already knows this because of the show you had me on this past week. Is Arcade1Up dead? Why are we having that conversation already? Who else we got here? I saw a couple other people earlier. Burger Time Babe. You know Burger Time Babe, don't you, buddy?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. Just been married to her for a while, but that's it. Yeah.
Decadent Dave's here. Biggie Fries. I always wonder who Biggie Fries is. I'm going to get to the bottom of this at some point. We've also got Andy's Game Room. Who else we got here? John McGovern. I'm on the side of fun as well. Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I unfortunately have missed some people, so if I hadn't said your name, I am sorry. Jay Pace is here too. Good to see you, Jay Pace. Mad Dog. We're going to get to a big point. I'll try to save some time at the end to do some question and answer. Hopefully you guys are still here. We'll do more shout outs and stuff like that. Robot Round says, is it Multicade Monday again already? Damn P-Dubs doing a Monday show. I love P-Dubs. Anyways, man, let's get into the conversation now. So, is the home arcade community too critical of these companies? Companies like Arcade1Up, AtGames, Quarter Arcades, New Wave Toys, My Arcade, anybody who makes this dispensable toy version of a real arcade to have in our homes. What's your opinion?
Yes and no. It's a very loaded question.
Oh yeah, is it ever? So
There's
so many
certain
different
point times
things.
where I think they deserve it, and other times I think not, and it's like, well, then there's so many layers to the question.
Yeah. Big time. So I had a poll up and I accidentally closed it. I'm very sorry, everybody. Only 57 votes by the time the poll came in. Hey, Steven Swanson's here. Good to see you, buddy. It's the hope that they can come back from the chaos that they have created and become the powerhouse they were. Steven Swanson, good to see you, my man. Anyways, I'm kind of with the poll. I believe that it's not really specifically the community. Some of it is absolutely deserved, and we'll get into that a little bit. Some of it is just wacky. But let's start where I guess some of the negativity started right away. Right from the very start, there was some negativity in this home arcade community because you had a bunch of people come in that weren't interested in home arcades, were never interested in Arcade1Up, never really interested in the multicades. They were commercial, real, coin-op arcade collectors. For some reason, we're just here to just shit on the product right from day one. And there was a sentiment out there that it was like they couldn't understand what the products were. They were just like, oh, these are shit. They don't have real controls. They don't have real buttons, real feelings. Why does anybody like this? Why were those people so invested and involved in coming in and telling us people that were enjoying this stuff, stop having fun? Why do you think that was?
I think that was, for me personally, it was kind of like, okay, well, these are the things that I've bought and brought home. Like, who could I ask to compare it to a real arcade? And who would be that guy? It'd have to be someone who kind of knows the layout of the land. Had those original arcades and things. Now, did I think they would, you know, crap on it like they did? So harsh. No, I didn't think that was going to happen, but unfortunately, it did. They came down pretty tough, especially on those Gen ones.
Yeah. So I remember I'm a big fan of John's Arcade, and Arcade1Up sent him like I believe it was an Asteroids, which is like the worst Arcade1Up they could have sent him because that one was really bad, and he was pretty critical of it. And I always felt there was this feeling from commercial coin op, whatever you want to call them, real arcade collectors, that this almost sullied and tarnished the whole concept of having an arcade, and that people who had Arcade1Ups in their home were fronting and faking this great legacy that they were looking to kind of, continue and pass on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like, uh, and I don't think that they understood really what the product was meant for, and they thought that it was supposed to be what an actual arcade is, and that's not the case with them. But whenever they first got it, I mean, it could have been put to them in that way, and so they went really hard on it, and unfortunately, it left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth just hearing that criticism.
Oh yeah, big time. Like both ways. It's never fun to be the person that buys something and you're so excited and you're so happy with it. You're so proud. You just spent a bunch of money on it, and someone just shits all over it. It's like you come home with a brand new car, and the first thing someone does is walk over and be like, "Oh, Ford. Why'd you buy a Ford? That thing's a rust bucket. You're an idiot. Why'd you buy that?" Right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
how it feels at times.
Well, it's like you ever seen like one of those Tesla, I don't know, like a little video or whatever on social media. If you see any of those underneath it, it's like all these people just crapping all over Teslas, and it's like those are a lot of money. So that's kind of how it was for us buying those Gen ones. It was like, wow, this is so exciting, so great, and then it's like, it sucks. You suck for buying it. Like,
You're such an idiot. Stop
yeah,
enjoying your product.
how dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Really quickly, we got a super chat here from Brian English, $10 super chat, $9.99. You want an upgraded Golden Tee XL control panel? Stop by and check it out. Mod one up, Brian. Yes, man. Thank you very much for the heads up. Appreciate it, guys. Go check out Mod one up, Brian, for an upgraded Golden Tee XL control panel. That's definitely a cab that needs one. That control panel. I don't know if everybody has the same issue, but my trackball just sucks. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The big downgrade from the original Golden Tee to the XL on the trackball really kind of messes up the experience. So I appreciate that. And Brian, thank you very much. You know what happens if you're our first super chat of the night, and only this is only for our first super chat. You got to give the people what they want. I love that people hate that. It makes me so happy.
I just wonder what he had to do to get to that point where he danced like that.
That would be John D. Literally just any time of the day. Like he's that guy. Like he goes bowling like completely sober, and he just breaks out the Michael Jackson dance moves. He's a dancer, man. I don't know what to say. Anyways,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Brian. So that was the first part. So like there was a lot of people that immediately came into the community and said, "This is shit. This is just the shits. Don't buy it." So right off the bat, that was that. But it didn't stop the fun. I mean, obviously, the fun kept going. We've got a community with, 20, 25, 30,000 strong. The original Arcade1Up global fan page by Glenn. We've got the original Arcade1Up fan page. We've got giant AtGames fan pages. We've got a massive Reddit community. So obviously people kept enjoying these things, right? There was a niche. There was a hobby. Some of us met each other through these stupid toys, but here we are a couple years later, and it seems like we're in a really negative tailspin for all these home arcade companies again. Why do you think that is?
I think it's there's a lot of different reasons behind it. For me personally, whenever I saw a big shift was during the MVC2 and Blitz time is whenever it was pretty positive. Yeah, people had their complaints. They said this, they said that, but overall it was positive. But once that happened, it was kind of like the shift really started, and then things happened in the actual Arcade1Up side of things, as far as John D leaving and Scott, and then so it's like the ball just kept continuing with all these rumors and things. But I think that's the starting point.
Yeah, that was that was a monumental shift for two reasons. One is it was such a huge mistake. Obviously, NFL Blitz, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, to push those out before they were anywhere close to ready was a massive mistake. It was so disappointing to the community, and it was a crack that gave a lot of the negative element that were really not fans of Arcade1Up for various different reasons an in to really, really attack them and try to, it was a chink in the armor. But on top of that, at the same time, like I talked about on Danny's show last week, it was also a critical failing point for Arcade1Up that put them in financial difficulty. Blitz was such a disaster from a financial point that it actually, hampered the company moving forward. So on top of there being this, chink in the armor, new negativity coming in about releasing games before they were anywhere close to ready, it was also a point of financial crisis. So it's almost like the negativity then coupled with the financial crisis really led to a real downward spiral of the company. I think that's a fair point to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Let's turn that off. There we go.
Oh, you had yourself mirrored. That's what it was.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. P-Dubs was like, all right, my OCD is kicking in. I was going to ignore it because I was like, oh, well, but whatever. But then it worked.
All right, really quickly, Houston Amusements, $1.99 Super Chat, 20 plus years I dreamed of having a TMNT arcade. I'm with you on that. That's the one that hooked me. I bought my Street Fighter and I was like, hey, that's cool. I've got one. That's probably all I'll buy. Then they came out with TMNT and everything changed. So there we go. Yeah. Then I got addicted.
That's back whenever we were living the dream, man. That was the golden era.
that was the real surprise, because when the first wave came out, like, you were lucky. They made a Galaga and they made a couple classic arcades. They made Street Fighter. But you looked at them from afar and you said, man, it'd be really cool if they could do some of these things. But you were like, oh, they probably can't do them. Then all of a sudden they came back and they started hitting like home runs, like they did Mortal Kombat. They did Golden Tee for some. That wasn't one that I was running to the store to get, but they did Golden Tee. But then they did Turtles, Marvel superheroes, and Star Wars. And you're just like, holy shit, sky's the limit with this company. There was so much potential. The positivity was really, really, really easy to see there.
Oh yeah, and even as far as the community goes, we had Facebook pages that were made that were exploding, and people were talking all the time on those too. On YouTube, it exploded too. Everyone's videos, the community really came together during that time, and it just was awesome. The whole experience, it was just really, really great during that time.
So we're jumping ahead because me and Galaga Guy discussed this a little bit behind the curtain before we started the show. Gamer Fridge says, I don't care what people say, I love my Blitz. I actually really enjoyed Blitz too. Never came to Canada till a little bit later, and by the time it got here, it was already discounted. So I picked it up for like $4.99 around Christmas time, $4.99 Canadian, which is comparable to $150 US, I think. Just kidding, but it is pretty cheap US reasons. I think a lot of the negativity that came from NFL Blitz is a lot of people went out and pre-ordered, got this thing right away. I know P-Dub's got his NFL Blitz hat. He pre-ordered. So you paid full price, and then like a week later or 2 weeks later, you were seeing it at Sam's Club for $150. So on top of
Yeah.
the negativity
Yeah.
about the games not being ready, the online not being ready, then I mean, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, you overpaid for it.
Yeah.
So there's this like kicking the nuts for going out and getting it. Then, right?
And weren't people too during that time that pre-ordered? They were waiting for it to come in the mail, while other people were going out to the store and just picking it up for cheaper. And
That's
they're like,
right.
"I'm still waiting for it to come in the mail."
Where's
So
my pre-order? Yeah, that's
yeah,
a long rule with Arcade1Up. You never pre-order from Arcade1Up directly. So that
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
So,
That would make anyone upset. Anyone.
but Blitz, once it got online, and once people picked it up, even when people went and picked it up, either they picked it up discounted from Sam's or there was a big Aldi sale a little while ago. Most people, when they get it, they're like, I really like this. I like the online. It's a fun experience. So I don't know.
Yeah, even OTG, he said that he hated on that cab a lot, but he went into some furniture store or something, and he played it, and he was like, man, if I would have known this is how it is and how great it plays, I might have picked one up back in the day, even though he despised it during that time. So
Well,
yeah,
I
one of those
mean,
games you have to play.
I'm one of those elitists where I have very specific wants from Arcade1Up. I want the cab to look like the original arcade. I want it to be a recreation as much as they can do. So I was immediately turned off because of that. Like it could be the coolest game in the world, but I mean they were changing the side arts, changing the name on it, calling it NFL Blitz Legends. So that kind of turned me off a little. I'm not saying that that's the right answer, or the wrong answer. That's just my personal feelings, right?
Yeah, to me during that time it was like playing the stock market, when to buy, because it was like I got mine for I think it was around 300 or 350, and I was like, oh, I can't go any lower than this. So I got one, and then it was like a couple days later, went down to 200, and I was like, man, I was trying not to gamble too hard, but I did. I lost $100. That's how I felt.
So Thor KC brings up a excellent point that we wanted to talk about too, and this is one of the things that I think really turned off a lot of people in the community and made a lot of people in the community really judgmental. We're specifically talking about Arcade1Up now. We'll get into the other companies in just a little bit. It'll all come together at some point, or not. We'll see how the night goes. Anyways, Thor KC says, I think I recall complaining about the prices being too high like a year ago when they last released anything new, but thought people would pay $800 for a 25-year-old plus game. The price issue was an issue right from the start. When they initially did their big jump in prices, it was $3.99 US, which was about it was like $5.99 Canadian at the time. That was the conversion. Then they did that massive price increase because there was all this complaints about the wood prices going up, the difficulty through the pandemic with shipping, with the prices of PCBs. We heard a rumor that they were going to jump the price up from $3.99 to $4.99 for new cabs, and we were upset about that, but we were kind of okay. But then a rumor came out that they were going to shoot right past $4.99 and actually raise the cabs up 50% to $5.99 as the new base price for Arcade1Ups. And I was like, what the hell are you doing, man? The video game industry, toy industry, you might be able to pull that shit. But you got to remember, you're in the video game industry technically here, and video game fans don't do well with massive price increases without much of a justification. And I said it. I was very clear. I made a great thumbnail with me dressed as the $1 Million Man. I thought it was amazing. But anyways, they for whatever reason, none of us know why, they went through with it and they did the $5.99 price hike. And I think that immediately turned a bunch of people off way back when. If I want to go back to a real starting point for when people started to turn negative about against Arcade1Up, it was the price hike. That would be my clear point.
Yeah, and because a lot of the criticisms that they have is because of the price. Because if they would have had those same issues, but those cabs would have been, a couple $100 less, kind of would have soothed everyone. Hey, you're only paying $400 for this, or $350, or whatever it is. It probably wouldn't have been as bad. But the fact that you're paying $600 where you could have got an Xbox or a PS5 or a couple Switches for the same price, it really puts it in perspective of how much are you paying for this stuff. So it definitely brought a lot of that negativity, as well as there's some things that have always with Arcade1Up never changed, and we're still wondering why. With the buttons and the sticks, it's like you're still giving me the buttons and the sticks, man. You're charging me 50% more, and I'm still getting crappy buttons and sticks. like,
Yeah, I will. I want to talk about that in just a minute because I think that goes back to the real arcade thing in just a second.
mhm.
So, bring up this comment from Nicholas Diorio, and this was a big one too. That there was a lot of people in the community built their arcades not necessarily from buying Arcade1Ups at retail price, but buying these on the clearance prices because there's a fundamental problem with their model. They were selling a big product. There's only so much room in retail spaces. So when something sat for a period of time, the retailers got antsy and would just clearance it out. And we found out afterwards there were buybacks through Arcade1Up. They could do that so quickly because they were going to get a guaranteed return from Arcade1Up. That's why they were so quick to do it. So many people, we looked at it, they bought I don't know if they did the first wave of cabs at $50, but I remember like $50 Final Fight cabs, $50 Marvel versus Marvel Superheroes cabs, even $50 Star Wars cabs. And there was almost like this anticipation with people like, I love Arcade1Up, but I'm only willing to pay like 50, $150 for them. So like they were never going to be happy with the price anyways.
Yeah, I remember going to my Walmart whenever the $50 slash happened, and there was a stack of Galagas that I didn't buy, and now I'm like kicking myself. I should have just bought them. I mean, you probably could have resold them later or modded a bunch of them and did something with them, But that's young Sheldon, I guess, not thinking. But those prices were stunning. Not stunning. They just were like jarring whenever you like walked in and you're like, wait, like why are these $50 now? And it kind of also diluted, I think, a lot of things like the Facebook marketplaces and things like that, where your cab that you just paid $300 for is now only worth like 100 because they're selling for so cheap. So that's also kind of an irritant too.
Rushmore says, seems like you guys are forgetting all the blatant shilling and even some of the sleaze initiatives by one of the shillers that made it very toxic. Come on, man. You gotta wait till we get to the mountain here. This is like Lord of the Rings. There's many waves. We can't just jump on the birds right from the beginning and go right to Mount Doom. We gotta keep talking about all the different things that happen, brother. Bring that comment up a little bit later, Rushmore, and we'll do that again. We got a $1.99 super chat here from Houston Amusements. I'll retire my TMNT 3/4 if XL is released. Come on, I'm with you on that. I want that 3/4 Turtles cab so bad. No, I don't think Rushmore is talking about you, Nostalgia. He hasn't said a single thing yet about air fryers or cod liver oil pills, Nostalgia. When we have that discussion, we'll bring you back in, brother. So, the price was a big one on video game stuff, and people forget this. One of the examples we made is for people that have been buying video games for as long as me, video games are the same price today they were in 1980. That's how fearful the video game industry is at raising the prices. Like we've just recently seen an increase up to like $79. In 2023, there was an increase, well, $79 here in Canada. How much is it in the US? 69?
It's $69 here.
Yeah. So from $59 to $69. In fact, video game prices have gone down because I remember going, Christmas shopping and looking in the catalogs, and like Street Fighter 2 was over $100 originally for the Super Nintendo. Games have gone down in price, but yet Arcade1Up's like, nah, we'll raise them up.
Yeah, and in that increase, like you said, it's been since the 1980s, and even that $10 increase, people were like losing their minds. Like Tekken 8, they're like $70. Are you kidding me? Like, how in the world? Why would they do that? And it's so that little bit, it ticked off a lot of people, and Arcade1Up was like, yeah, 50%, we're good. Let's just keep riding this wave.
And see, the thing is, we don't know if it was necessary, not necessary. We have no idea. So we can all, and John D made fun of me and made fun of other people because he said there's a lot of community economics majors out there. But Arcade1Up never ever did a very good job of justifying their price increase. You saw other companies like Quarter Arcades, they did a poll out to the community. They were like, hey guys, if you want us to keep the price stable, we might have to switch to making our cabs plastic, or we might have to do that. You know, John came on shows and said, well, PCBs cost more, wood costs more, and stuff like that. But, like, you know, we have no idea how much it costs. The other thing that we have no idea how much stuff costs is their licensing and, like, how those big titles and working with the big AAA publishers work, what the expense was like for that, marketing, none of that stuff. So, what do you say?
Yeah,
like, they might have had a perfectly viable reason for raising the price. It's just...
I forget which show it was, but you were helping with one show, you said, and they didn't tell you the price till right before you went on.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you all were shocked at the price, but you were like, okay, like we're gonna keep going, but like this is ridiculous. Which cab was that?
The Time
Which one
Crisis.
it was?
Time Crisis.
Time Crisis. That's what it
Yeah.
was. Right before you went on, they told you, and you're like, okay, like.
Well, I didn't know what to do. I was shocked because, like, we were doing it, and B was furious. B was like, I want a price. B was giving Arcade1Up the business. It was hilarious. And you know, Cyrus said, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna go get the price. But they were really in a bad position there, and people who know about the stuff might know more than me, because maybe part of it is Arcade1Up's job, because they have to work with the retailers to decide a price. They can't dictate the price to the retailers, but through the relationship they choose it. The problem was the only retailer that was willing to pick up Time Crisis was ShopHippo, and ShopHippo made it happen. They were the only retailer that bought it. They basically made that cab happen, and from what John D has told me, I think they ordered 7,000 cabs. So they did an order of 7,000 cabs. It was just them. Anybody who says, well, I can buy Time Crisis through Walmart, you're still buying it through ShopHippo. That's Walmart's online store. ShopHippo is still the merchant that's selling it to you. So they dictated what the price was. Could Arcade1Up done a better job to work with them to get a better price? Maybe, but I don't know what the relationship was. I don't know how much leverage Arcade1Up actually had to do it. It'd be different if Arcade1Up was working with Amazon, Best Buy, and a couple other retailers where they could all agree on a price, right?
Well, and two, if you're, the ShopHippo is the only one that's willing to take it. I mean, what can you really say? Like, okay, whatever you want to charge, I guess you're the only one who's willing to buy it. Like, what do I say? Like,
it's kind of a shit situation, right? It sucks. So, going back to the price thing, so the price thing really sucked for a lot of people, and like you said, it was that increase in price that we moved from something that was a little bit more affordable. I'm not saying it was super affordable, it was still $400, but when you get up into that category of, here in Canada, it's like $1,000. You expect more, right? You expect a lot more. You expect the quality to be higher. And while Arcade1Up did a lot of things to change, there was still some really frustrating issues with their quality and some stuff that we had never saw before, because maybe they bit off a little bit more than they could chew. And that goes back to the MVC2 and Blitz stuff again, because they really tried to do stuff that they had never done before with both those games, got in over their head, and then had retailer timelines that they had to meet, which was out of their control. I remember when Blitz came out, at the time John D was still working there, he had no idea it was coming out, that it was already shipped to the retailers, because they were trying to get that done. But the sales team rushed to move it out because they had a commitment to get it out by a certain date. So, I mean, like, there's all this stuff happening internally in the company that they sunk each other, right?
oh man, and you think too, especially when you have a license like the NFL, you take a coffee cup and you have a normal coffee cup. Oh, this is like, $2, but you slap NFL on it and now it's worth $20. So you just think, people are going to buy that and people will buy that. So whenever you had an arcade too, I think that a lot of them are thinking this is 100%, this is going to sell like hotcakes. And then it didn't happen at all.
Yeah. We talk a lot about that. It's kind of a shit situation. That just about sums it up for Arcade1Up. We
Yep.
greatly missed 19K Fox's show last night. I saw a picture of him. He was going to see Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and I said, "Oh, are you kidding me, man? No Unico good, John D good, Arcade1Up bad show tonight." He wanted me to give him a special shout out because he's like, "Hey, I've been shitting on these guys since the Golden Axe Cab came out." So 19K Fox, day one hater.
Well, his after show, I got to tell you, is follows the same pattern. I don't know what it is. It's all the same.
Unico good, John D good, Arcade1Up bad.
Oh, we have a good time. We have a good time on this after show.
Yeah, I pay for a lot of shows like that, mostly on OnlyFans, and I'm pretty satisfied with my investment. A couple other things we got to talk about. One is with the community. I'll be very clear here. Like, there is criticism and then there's constructive criticism, and a lot of people have constructive criticism for Arcade1Up about what they would like to see, and some is just criticism for the sake of criticism. Let's be clear, there's a lot of people out there making YouTube channels and YouTube videos, and for some reason, whatever it is, no matter which category you're in, like whether you're a wrestling channel, YouTube channel on Nintendo or anything like that, let's call a spade here. Controversy sells. If you guys are a fan of Eric Bischoff, you probably know he had a book out called Controversy Creates Cash. So there's a whole segment in the YouTube community that intentionally looks for negativity to talk about, to really ramp up their channel success. I mean, that's their modus operandi, and people have been feasting on Arcade1Up about some things that are 100% true, like great comments, like absolutely they have constructive criticism that would help the company, and some stuff is just either kicking them while they're down, which is just stupid or something like that, or it's just making up stuff for the sake of making up stuff.
Yeah,
Nicholas,
I mean, you
Nicholas, super popular drama channel. Go check him out if you ever get the chance. Really good at what he does. There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're going to look at that. You're going to decide what's, good criticism, what's bad criticism. If someone's constantly negative about everything, maybe there's something more going on there if they don't have anything positive things to say about the company, or maybe there's a personal agenda too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there was a lot of upgrades that happened with Arcade1Up, and even AtGames and the other companies, because people they did have complaints. Hey, there's not a lot of not a light up marquee. There's no risers with these things. They're too short. Those constructive criticisms like, hey, we need these things to get these things looking better and feeling more like a real arcade. I feel like those were constructive, and Arcade1Up took those ones to heart. But then again, there's other people that that's their bread and butter, is that if things go wrong, and they're willing to do anything, take any little clip and make it and construe it in different ways to make it into something that's not, so they can continue to get views. And there's been times where whenever that negativity especially got real strong, that wave came, that those ones really benefited from that, and they're still riding the wave. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with providing constructive feedback. I've always said that there's a good thing of telling a company when something's wrong. I mean, I will state an example, and people, I see the comment from Dave Oford here who says when it's only a small thing. But I mean, we were very critical on Arcade1Up about the TN monitors they put in that legacy line of cabs. I mean, that was a disaster. Like the fact that they brought out that Mortal Kombat, that Pac-Mania cab, and what was the other one that had the TN monitor in it that was really bad?
Oh,
the Centipede.
No, that's a Pac-Man. Yeah, Centipede.
Dig Dug as well. Pac-Man. That was a Pac-Man reskin. Dig Dug and Joust were.
Yeah.
But that TN monitor, I mean, and then the TN monitor they put in the XL cabs, the first two XL cabs.
Wow.
I mean, that is good constructive feedback. But yet there were still people that were maybe a little bit too positive, saying, "Oh, you guys are being too critical. Like the cab looks fine when you look directly at it and stuff like that." So. But like that's the kind of information that it's good to pass on.
Yeah. So it definitely has like a warning, and also too and I know that John D said too. Whenever other cabs came out, he made sure everyone knew that the BOEs are in and the TN monitors are gone, so to kind of relieve everyone of that too. So it is something that they listened to and they took to heart. That was like, okay, yeah, this is a bad idea. We shouldn't have done that. But yeah, those are horrible. Absolutely, I especially your NBA Jam, the Shack Jam,
Oh
where
yeah.
two players basically are like like can't even see anything at all. Yeah, that was horrible. That's horrible.
Golden TXL was probably the worst because where the monitor was on an angle, like no matter where you stood, there was like discoloration and darkening happening on the monitor. So, I
Oh
mean,
yeah. So
if the rumors end up being true about an XL version coming to Costco, that's not a bad thing, right? Because if anybody wants a Golden TXL, hopefully they fix the control panel and there's a better screen in it because that one absolutely needs one.
yeah, that one I still have. I have my Golden TXL. And yeah, I haven't changed the monitor out yet, but I do plan on it. And I like you have to like I have to stand on my tippy toes to like make sure it's not washed out if I really want to get it not washed out. So it sucks. It really
Yeah,
does.
there's no escaping that. Now some other stuff like we'll talk about. People are like, "Oh, you're too easy on it," and something like that. Like a lot of people on YouTube, maybe we don't have the same expectations. Like people are like, "Oh, it doesn't have the buttons are a proper one." Everybody says the buttons are kind of shitty. Go look at pretty much any single home arcade product out there. I mean, no one has, commercial grade
Yeah.
buttons in their cabs. Name one company that sells a retail product that has commercial grade buttons. Why do we expect that in Arcade1Ups and stuff? Now, could Arcade1Up have better, knockoffs?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That I think that's what a lot of people were just clamoring for. It's like, hey, can you give us, at least something a little bit better than
Yeah.
these? Yes, that's especially whenever they rose the if they're raising the price like they were, and the buttons don't cost much more, and sticks like they don't cost much more. It's like, could you just give us a little bit, And I think it's where, and again, those people clung on to it, those negative people. That's like, oh well, their buttons and sticks still stink, and it's like, well, you're not
It's not
wrong.
it's not
I
even
get,
a point of conversation anymore, right?
yeah, yeah,
We know
yeah,
that we know that stuff sucks. Like that's been like it since day one. I really do wish Arcade1Up would listen to that complaint, and I don't know where the failing point is on that because they've listened to so much. They went and they made the products look more like the real arcades. Like you said, they brought in the buttons. They brought in the light up marquees, the risers with the cab. Now they've taken the risers away, and as much as we complain about all this stuff. I mean, even though these are re-releases, the cabs that they've been releasing lately are the best versions of those cabs they've ever come out with. I mean, the deluxe cabs are so much better than the previous releases. Like, it sucks that it's not
yeah,
something new, but it's cool that we get new versions that are really good compared to what the other ones used to be. And again, toy company. A lot of the complaints come from the price point. Again, I know that because it's $4.99, so it's $500. Still a lot of money, but these are so much better than they used to be. But the button thing, how they haven't increased, like iArcade's buttons were tremendously better. AtGames buttons are tremendously better. There's got to be somewhere where they can do it. I remember Cyrus actually reached out to me at one point. He goes, "What buttons should we use?" I just don't think whoever's making the decisions there actually knows enough about it to do an upgrade. And then anything that's been brought forward to do upgrades. I know John D was pushing really hard to get like real sticks and buttons in these cabs, but like they would bring them to the finance department and it would be, you know, the finance department's looking at the budget and they're like, "Wait a minute, you want to increase our button budget up by 300%? Yeah, we're not going to do that." So that's where it gets eliminated, right? So it
Well, I
didn't
think.
need to be
Oh,
commercial. It just needed to be at least a step up.
yeah, and I think if they're going to do increases, though, that's like if you told me, hey, I can buy an Arcade1Up for 4.99 with the buttons that you've always had, or one with upgrade button sticks for 550. I'd be like, give me the one for $5.50. Like I'll eat it. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather not have to go through the process of buying my own buttons and sticks and have them delivered, and then have to take it all apart, then put them all in and redo it. Like, I'd rather you just already have it done for me, Arcade1Up. Like, I could literally have it built and then just start playing and not have any complaints. So it's
Yeah.
like, I'm willing to eat that. If you're gonna increase the price, let me eat it for something that is worth it.
Yeah. Here we go. Nicholas says, if these companies could make an arcade accurate machine with all the bells and whistles affordably, why would Namco willingly choose to compete with their own 3000 pixel bash machine? Here's one I want to get into. This is my favorite comment from commercial arcade collectors when talking about the price. They're like, you guys are so stupid buying those Arcade1Ups. You can buy a real one for the same price. So they quantify buying a real one for the same price, and that's fine. You totally can. But like I've done 2 episodes on this recently. There's a difference between owning a real arcade and buying an Arcade1Up. Maybe real arcades aren't for everybody. Like there's a commitment to owning a real arcade. There's maintenance. These are 40-year-old machines. Parts are going to break. You're going to have to, possibly change out your CRT TV. So there's all those components in there. And then saying the price is $500, and then I remember John D saying things like, if this was a commercial arcade, you'd be paying $10,000, $12,000 for it, and everybody would shit on it and be like, I can get a Galaga for $600 off some guy down the street. Well, the guy down the street doesn't have to pay Bandai Namco licensing rights. The guy down the street is just taking something that he bought out of a storage locker or an old arcade and selling it. There's not all these other things attached to it. That's why you get companies like Bandai Namco selling like a $3,000 pixel bash and stuff like that. Like increases in quality, increases in that stuff. And when you actually bring licensing in there, there's increased costs, and people don't seem to equate that.
And you know what's funny about that too is there was someone who did a review of the Pixel Bash, and they trashed it because they didn't like the stick. So it for $3,000, you may not be getting what you want anyways.
That's right.
So, they said the 8-way stick they said they were saying the 8-way stick is on that thing, and it's garbage because you should only have a 4-way stick, and you have to replace the stick. So, but I, as someone who owns Galaga Cab, I can say compared to owning an Arcade1Up, this is way more terrifying. Because,
well, it's awesome though. At the same time, man,
yeah.
like honestly, I love real arcades. Like I wish I wish I lived in an area where I could get into this. Like I would have a lot more interest in the maintenance and stuff like that. But for me, a lot of this is an availability issue. It's just like everything's so limited here. There's I live on an island. I can't get stuff shipped to me because it costs like $600-700. Like my pinball machine, I bought a real commercial pinball machine. Cost $600 to get that shipped to me here in Newfoundland. Not $600, part of the purchase. That was just shipping.
Well, as an example, I've been looking for a Dig Dug cab, and around here, a used one is going for around $1,500 to $1,800. So that's out the gate, and then I got to get it here. So either I have to borrow someone's truck or rent a U-Haul to get it here. And then once you get it here, you got to worry about maintenance, things like that. While ShopHippo has their Arcade1Up Dig Dug cab on sale for $300. I can change the buttons and sticks and the monitor for maybe $150 to $200, and I have a perfectly usable Dig Dug cab that I don't have to worry about. So it's all your perspective and what you want out of your arcade, I guess. So
and then there's other stuff there. Like you see a Tron back there. Tron's an expensive arcade, man. Like to actually buy, like even if you can find a commercial one used now, I think Trons usually go for somewhere around $2,000-3,000 US. So I mean,
that's around here. Yeah.
So there's a price difference there for some of it too. Not everything you can get cheaper. Some of those are like Star Wars. Star Wars is a really expensive arcade to get in real life. Tron, even the used ones. There's some other ones too. Pitbull. Yeah. Guys, for pictures of a dude dropping his pants, go follow Pitbull on Instagram. I love Pitbull. He gives me a hard time because he's a big proponent of the real stuff, and I completely agree, right? Like, it's super cool, but he also lives in a mecca where you can go. He's got that experience to fix it. If I lived close to Pitbull, I would probably have tons of these because I could buy them and then be connected to somebody like that. Awesome member of the community that's going to help you learn how to fix it and keep it going, hook you up with tricks on how to get stuff. So, good stuff there. Anyways,
And if
I
I,
want. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if I remember hearing this right, which I could be wrong, but Fox, 19K Fox, he lives near me. And he had said to, if there's something that he couldn't figure out, he has someone that he knows that can come and help fix his arcade. But just to walk through the door is $300.
Yeah.
So it's it's expensive hobby if you're getting into the real stuff compared to Arcade1Up, where it's like, hey, I need a new PCB board, like $50 off of eBay. Cool, like we're good to go. Like so,
Yeah,
there's a big difference.
there's a price difference. Like
Yeah.
you are not getting a commercial arcade, but you're getting something that's relatively low maintenance sometimes. I mean, some stuff still
Yeah.
breaks. Like, we've all got Arcade1Ups where like they've shown up broken. Like my Tron had about bad encoder board right from the hop, like where basically
Yeah.
it was not working out of the box, just stopped working. So yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I want to go back and talk about some other things that really affected the view on the community towards. And we're talking about a lot about Arcade1Up. We got to get the other stuff in here yet, but
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
no. It's just there's so much to unpack, and Arcade1Up is such a big part of the home arcade community in that aspect.
Hmm.
Another thing that I think turned a lot of people off was when they started watching. You said something to me earlier today. Oh, you're one of the biggest guys in the community. I don't really see that, but like, I think back on home arcade, and we were all just people making videos as part of a community. Really, there were only two people that were like icons, like real, like big deals in the community, and that was Retro Ralph and Cool Toy
Hmm.
when we started. Both of them were on like the top show at the time. Like Cool Toy was on the Retro Buzz, which was a hot spot for Arcade1Up talk, and Retro Ralph started One Up Weekly with console kits. Then on top of that, they were getting the products sent out to them from the companies. The companies were giving them first looks at the pinball machine. You remember, they both got demo units of the machines to go test out. So I think a lot of people kind of developed a relationship with both those YouTubers. So when they became tired or disenfranchised with the product, a lot of people kind of also became tired and disenfranchised with the product. So I think that plays a big part of it as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I remember, I think it might have been on Biggie D's podcast he was on, and he had said there's he had a Burger Time that he reviewed, and they had an 8-way joystick, and he was like, yeah, it's pretty good. Like, I don't really think there's anything wrong with it. And he was like, people came after him. He's like, they're like, you can't have an 8-way joystick on there. And so even him, he got kind of snowballed in that. But I do see, he really those guys kind of turned away from Arcade1Up, and I think Cool Toy. He had a whole thing about the MK, or not MK, MVC2, where he went out and bought one, and he said if they don't have online by such a date, then I'm taking it back. I'm taking it all apart, and I'm packing it up, and I'm taking it back. I think it was to Target, and he did it too. That was one of his episodes. Is he packed it all up, undid everything, and put it back in the box, and took it back to Target. So there was a lot of hate during that time, and they just help with the fire a little bit on that.
So there's also stuff that happens behind the scenes that people don't like to talk about and are a little uncomfortable with, right? Like with Cool
Yeah,
Toy.
yeah,
Cool Toy was a part of the Retro Buzz, and the Retro Buzz had a really good relationship with Arcade1Up. Actually signed this deal to be the official show of Arcade1Up at one point. Had contracts in place where Arcade1Up was going to give them X amount of cabs to be their like community show. This is contracts they signed. And that's why they all got the NBA Jam cabs when they first came out. If you remember, Glenn, Cool Toy, and Stephen Haywood all got NBA Jam cabs from Arcade1Up demo units as part of this contract. Arcade1Up changed their minds, decided not to do that, and then screwed over that show to go work with One Up Weekly. So they basically voided the contracts, stopped sending them stuff, and you can say what you want, but that turned off some of those content creators, and maybe they had some resentment towards the company at that point, right?
Yeah, and if you have people that you're utilizing to be influencers for your product, it's kind of a bad idea to make them upset about your product. I
Yep.
mean, that's just, I mean, you can't be, there's no other way to put it. I mean, that's just dumb. Like, oh, hey, I want you to promote this thing, but before you promote it, let's go ahead and just kind of piss you off. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
And
a
then
bad idea.
Ralph was their number one guy for a while. I have no idea what happened there, but I got the impression that he just, wanted to change at one point. So he decided he wasn't
Yeah.
going to cover that stuff anymore. Maybe his channel wasn't growing to the point that he wanted, so he wanted to do some different stuff. Maybe he was a little bit disenfranchised with the relationship he had with One Up at the time. I don't know. So, anyways, he moved away from it as well. So, with people's allegiance to that, they see these people that they idolize, these big channels, no longer interested, and maybe it turns some people off from the product as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a big component of it for sure.
Hey, thank you very much, Kevin. Decadent Dave, this is one of my favorite topics too, because this was also a big
Oh no.
turning point in the community. They wronged Glenn. I stand with
Okay,
Glenn.
you're opening up all the worms, man.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh no. Like,
I
I'm just
stand
like,
with Glenn.
I want to need another drink.
So,
Okay, yeah, that
yeah,
was a
that was a
huge,
huge one.
huge
Yeah.
thing. Oh, so bad.
So,
And I felt like no one, I don't know all the sides of the story, first off, but I did feel like from what I had heard is he was really not treated well at all from things. But again,
no.
I don't know everything.
So, Glenn, we all famously remember Glenn had a really good relationship with Arcade1Up, but he got screwed a couple times. We already talked about
Oh yeah.
when they were the Retro Buzz, they had a relationship with One Up, and they had a contract. They were going to be the official show. They were sending them product, and then they screwed those guys. Glenn had a very close relationship with Scott Bacharach as well, to the point
Yeah.
that Bacharach was doing special things for Glenn. I don't know if you remember, he arranged for a bunch of Arcade1Ups to be sent to Glenn's job so Glenn could give them to his staff for Christmas bonuses. Do you remember that video? No, probably don't
No,
remember
I
that,
don't
do
remember
you?
that.
No, people don't remember
No.
that. Arcade1Up sent Glenn, I think it was like something like 15 Arcade1Ups to give to his staff for their Christmas break. And people might not know this. When Glenn had his flood, Scott Bacharach felt really bad about it. Actually sent some cabs out to Glenn to make up for the ones he lost.
Wow. So I mean, that's pretty nice. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. Yeah.
So
That's
here's where it really went to hell. Was Glenn always he sells his own products, and people could probably take this the wrong way and be like, oh, he's selling these things, but Glenn's doing this stuff for his love of the hobby, right? So he's not really trying to make money. Whenever I see Glenn, I make fun of him, and I'm like, Glenn, the only man who's trying to run a business at a loss, because there's like no markup on these products at all. Glenn's not making anything. He's not trying to make a buck.
yeah.
So he went to Arcade1Up very early on. He had a meeting and he brought all his products in. And he in his mind, he wanted to help them and work with them. So he brought his products in and he's like, how do we work together? Why don't you put my parts in your machine so I can make your machines better? So that's what he put on the table and he offered. So then that's how they got all his stuff, like his Tron stick and all this stuff, right? But we already talked about the buttons, and there's a commercial thing where they're like, nope, we're going to use the cheapest shit possible for our budgets for whatever reason. So they didn't want to work with Glenn for whatever reason. But then Tron came up, and it looks like there's nothing official out there, but from what we can hear and what all the stories are and the rumblings, they didn't use Glenn's stick, but they reverse engineered Glenn's stick, used ideas, components from it to build their own Tron stick, including a very specific part, which is how the joystick actually connects to the cab or something like that. And they stole that and they used that in their stick. So then, Glenn felt like I've been robbed. Like these guys, they don't want to work with me, but yet they're stealing my intellectual property. And then that's when everything just went to absolute hell at that point. So
And
I know Glenn felt wronged, and I don't know if everybody knows this, but I mean the company did offer to compensate Glenn a financial amount, like X amount of dollars, thousands of dollars. But Glenn, again, he's not doing this for the money. He's like, no, how about, like, we work something out, you use my parts in your arcade. And they just said, no, money or nothing.
mm. And didn't they too with the whole Facebook
Well, we'll get
group
there.
thing?
We'll get there.
Okay. Well, I know that I didn't even know about the whole Trongate thing until I bought one of Glenn's his stick because I went online to see, okay, how do I install this? Oh, Glenn has a video, and in that video, it's revealed that hey, they took my design, and I was like, what is going on? And so I know that that caused a big stir in the home arcade community because there were people that were like it just is so torn. People are like, "Oh, I stand with Glenn." Hashtag I stand with Glenn, and
Yep.
people are like, "Oh, these are just cheap products that he makes anyways," and da da da. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm sorry if Glenn did end up getting wronged in any way or felt wronged in any way. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he
Um,
is. And it
yeah, he's
sucks to be in
fantastic.
that situation. And
Yeah,
really quickly, super chat here from Stringer Films. $2. Here's your $2. Peeps need to keep their hands off Glenn's stick. Agreed. And Houston Amusement, what's the most likely new release for 2024? I don't know. Well, like, honestly, no one knows anything right now. And when you say new release, we don't know. We don't know, no idea if there's going to be anything new this year more than maybe new deluxe cabs that are re-releases of previous cabs, and same in the XL line. We don't know other than that. So going back to the Glenn thing, then after that happened, Glenn had the official website, official Facebook groups for like AtGames, Arcade1Up, other things. You remember all the
yeah.
official pages. He went and renamed them all the GRS Facebook AtGames Facebook page, the GRS Arcade1Up Facebook page, and he's decided I'm going to market my own products while talking about these companies. So at that point, John D got really upset, and him and Glenn had this brawl on Facebook, like because John D's like, you can't name our page the GRS page, like that's completely wrong, and they had a blast up on Facebook. They decided to work things out off page, and like they just made it up that it was a joke and stuff, but that was a real fight. They were pissed off that Glenn did that. That was I'm not sure if that would happen before the Tron. Yeah, that happened after the Tron stick. So then after that blow up, then Arcade1Up decided to do their own social media stuff. They wanted to get away from Glenn. So that's when they decided to go work with Lewis Chambers and the Arcade1Up modding page that he had that had similar numbers. And they just straight out stole the same page that Glenn had previously done and renamed the Arcade1Up modding page as the official Arcade1Up Facebook fan page. And I just looked at it and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. All this over a fan page. So
Yeah,
I
it
mean, like
was.
it's all so messed up, right?
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, as someone who didn't know what was going on really, I was just like, what is happening right now? I'm just sitting there like, okay, there's this other page that looks like Glenn's page that Arcade1Up did, and then I'm seeing this video where,
So
there it looks like they
stupid.
stole a stick, and it's like then I didn't see the fight that happened that you're talking about, but there was a lot of rumblings, and like I said, people were just negative, and they really tore the community in half, I should say. There was like boundaries that were almost set, like, oh, I'm not gonna go to this page, like don't join that page. If you're on that page, come over to this page. And it was on both sides of the aisle, kind of thing. And it was very interesting and just a very negative time. Like I don't know. It was just weird, man. It was just weird. Like,
It was, and like it sucks because here we are, we're all like hanging out. We love this product and stuff like that, but we love this person. So you're stuck between like, what are you supposed to do? Do I just stop liking this product and this community I've been involved with for years because a couple of people in the company are terrible and did this shitty stuff? Like, it is an awkward situation. Some people went all in. Stan McGlynn, I'm selling everything. I hate Arcade1Up. some
Yep.
people took advantage of the situation, already hated Arcade1Up, and you know, fed off the negativity and brought other people to their cause through this. They used it, but you know, that's what people do. So it just sucks. In the end, this story has a very positive ending, of course, because Glenn ended up, you know, fighting through that negativity. He developed a relationship with iArcade, and unfortunately, iArcade went away, which I mean to talk about in some point as well. But iArcade went away, unfortunately, but Glenn is still there doing stuff, making products for that. And thanks to that relationship, like he got a relationship with Sinden, he got an official relationship with, oh Jesus, what's the name of the company that makes the Ikari Warriors, that company, SNK, like he was working with SNK. So Glenn, even though he never got what he wanted and should have got with Arcade1Up maybe, went on to have these great business relationships. I mean, he's firing on all cylinders now with the Sinden Target Pro, with, you know, his ultimate, well, the SNK control panel, Ikari Warriors stick, and the cool stuff he's doing with iArcade. So, you know, good for GRS. And of course, his relationship with New Wave Toys. I mean, like, all that's awesome. So even though he had to go through that really negative stuff with Arcade1Up, it all turned out to be the good in the past. But unfortunately, that left a huge negative on the company that didn't need to be there, that turned off a huge section of the community that was close with Glenn.
Yeah, for Glenn, it was like a door shut but a window open. That's kind of, you know, that old phrase.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like you know, he got shut off from Arcade1Up, but and I think he still, you know, he really loves what he does now with New Wave Toys and things like that. So it's always nice to see how things kind of work out. Sucks that it happened, but you know, it's for the best in the end for him.
Arcade1Up took it even more personal with Glenn, unfortunately. It was a real stressful mess. I don't know what you're referencing there, Jason, but I know some people reached out and tried to allude to the fact that they could get like companies to come after Glenn because he was making like Tron joysticks and Star Wars flight yokes without having the official licenses. So if that's what you're talking about, yeah. But the thing that I want to really reference there that gets lost in this equation is Arcade1Up did it. And like people are still on that track. They're like, man, Arcade1Up did all this stuff to Glenn. 100%, 100%. People at the company that worked there at the time did that to Glenn. But do those people still work there now? That's the thing. Like, company changes, they have all these layoffs. Are the people there still accountable and responsible for what happened with the Glenn situation? And some people are like, yes, forever they had those people hired. The company should fail because of it. And I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely puts everyone in a tough spot. And it kind of feels like, and this might be a bad analogy, but it's like almost like I felt like a kid that's parents got divorced and you're kind of stuck in the middle and you don't know, you love them both, but you don't know what to do. They don't like each other anymore. So yeah, it just was a really, really
Oh, it was
messed up
awful.
time.
Awful. Never
It
should have
was,
happened.
yeah. And yeah, I'm really glad that, you know, we can talk about it now and know that the results ended up being better for him, and all around everything's just kind of calmed down on that front. But other fronts, you know, of course, still came up, but still, that at least that's passed.
So there was another side of it too. There was a lot of stuff Arcade1Up did that was really friggin' questionable. So there was at one point where Arcade1Up was set to apparently get the SNK license, but they didn't end up getting it. And Unico came out with the Neo Geo and the SX. So this was a reasonable, successful product until someone found out, hey, this thing's hackable. We can do this high-low hack. And then apparently John D went on like social media and said all this stuff about like, oh, they're gonna lose their license because of the hacking, and did this big anti-hacking thing. I didn't really pay attention to a lot of it, but that was another thing that turned that modding, hacking, multi-K community kind of against Arcade1Up. There, like, you guys are trying to screw us out of the what is it, the high-low hack.
Yeah, it's like they spoke up when they shouldn't have, and they kept quiet when they should have said something.
Oh
Like
yeah,
that's
I
like the
mean,
going pattern with Arcade1Up. It's like So many times that happened.
So Arcade1Up are the industry leader, in this business. Things are changing now because all the companies are literally in the same place again. But the one thing Arcade1Up never should have done, never should have talked about anybody. No one should have been public. No company representative saying anything about any of this stuff. At that point,
Yeah.
in a way, it was kind of punching down. So like they just
Mhm.
never should have touched it. Should have been more like they are now, where you don't hear from them at all. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
And whenever you punch down like that, you never end up looking good.
no,
Even if you think you're right, or maybe you are right, it never looks good. Like, it's
no.
like, why are you picking on this guy? Like, he's just trying to do what's best for the community, and you're just doing this, and so it always looks bad. Always looks bad.
Yeah. So you take all these like mishaps, mistakes, and stuff like that, and the big one, the other one I really want to talk about is the marketing with Arcade1Up, because
Oh.
from a community perspective, I mean, we know what demo our community is. Like we have some
Hmm.
people in the community that are absolutely in their 20s, 30s, but the majority of people are, a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more gray in the beard and stuff like that. So it seems more like Arcade1Up almost turns a blind eye to the community aspect when it comes to their marketing, how they drop. Who says drop? Like I've never heard the term drop before in my life until they were like, "There's a drop coming," and I was like, "What are you talking about? What does drop mean? I don't know it."
Yeah, and I know it's been mentioned in other shows I've seen and things where it's hard to for the people who are currently working there that are kind of younger to understand people who are older who are the ones remembering these games and the ones that should be their main priority to sell these things to
You would think so,
to kind of
yeah,
understand that. Yeah, and
yeah.
doing things like a TikTok channel and stuff where most of their fans are on Facebook. That kind of tells you the demographic that you're working with.
So,
like, like
Nostalgia that was here in the chat earlier, he claims to be a business genius, right? So, one of the things Nostalgia said to me very early on is as a company, if you're not growing, you're dying. So, I think Arcade1Up at one point felt the same way because, that's what these millennial garbage people say. And
hey,
what
I'm
they
a
did.
millennial, by the way.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm
I'm
always in one.
I'm the last year of Generation X. I just snuck in, so
Oh
yeah.
no, it's fine. I enjoy it. I think it's funny. Go on.
So, anyways, Arcade1Up, there's a big disconnect that when they try to interact with the community, they take that same approach that they're taking to marketing, which is this big mainstream appeal and going for demographics that they're really trying to appeal to people that are outside what their core community is. And there's also inside businesses, there's some really shitty thoughts towards the core community that really your most vocal fans are the 10%, but you really have to do everything for the 90. You can't just focus on the 10% because you're going to go out of business. So that's kind of how they treat us, right?
Yeah, and I was about ready to say exactly what Stock Jock said, that if they're trying to appeal to people who are in their 20s and they're trying to sell them a $700 arcade machine of a game that they've never heard of before, like what it's just messed up, man. Like, who's going to buy that? Like in my 20s, there's no way I'd pay $700 for an arcade machine that I know nothing about at all, and maybe I've seen in a show or something. But yeah, it's just the whole thing. I don't know who's ahead of that or what exactly is going on, but it's
I
never
don't know
been
either.
very good.
So we've spent over an hour talking about all the reasons. Yeah, absolutely. Arcade1Up's terrible, but I did want to talk about some of the stuff that I think is a little bit unfair. Like
Yeah.
one thing right now is poor Cyrus, right? Like this guy's getting
Oh.
crucified, and for what? Because like he comes out and he doesn't tell you like every single thing you want to hear. Like I think Cyrus, a lot of the negativity that Arcade1Up have brought on themselves for their own actions over the years is still being continued. So you get a guy like Cyrus that did go out and try to legitimately just do stuff for the community and stuff like that. And he's become a target and a whipping boy. And I think that's a little unfair, to be honest. Like, people look at him and he's the scapegoat now for everything that people see wrong with the company. Like, whether it's, we're not getting the games we want. Well, that's because Cyrus doesn't know what he's doing. We don't get enough community announcements. Well, that's because Cyrus isn't doing this. He's just one person that works there. I'm sure if Cyrus had his way, he'd tell you everything you wanted to hear. He doesn't tell you anything because he can't tell you anything. He's a young kid in a position trying to do the best he can. I mean, I think he's treated a little bit unfairly by the community because of the trials and tribulations of Arcade1Up over the years.
Yeah, it's almost like he inherited the hate that John D got to leave behind.
Yeah.
He John D, he had broad shoulders and he was someone who was really established. So I think he could take the criticism and he could try to do something about it too. John D had a little bit more of a sway in things. He was able to promote certain things and try to get things taken care of. While Cyrus, he's new to the block kind of thing, and he just can't really catch a break right now with anything. And before I was, I had no real thoughts on the guy. I was kind of like, hey, he seems like he's okay, like, whatever. But hearing Travis the other day on a Cornercade stream, him saying like, no, they are like, they're pushing as hard as they can to all these retailers. Like, they're really going out and they're trying all that they can to get them to do things, and they're putting things in front of them that the really retailers just won't do.
Yeah.
Kind of gives you a glimpse of like, hey, Cyrus is trying to a certain degree. like
Yeah.
it's happening. Other people are saying that it is happening. So yeah, give him a little credit, guys, a little credit. But
I like Cyrax. He'd be a lot
Cyrax.
more fun. So we did try to have some fun with him. Like, when we were doing the time crisis release, we were like, "Hey, you should tell everybody your time, Cyrus." It kind of rhymes. Just stupid stuff like that to try to like lighten it up. But David Deming brings us up. Cyrus sucks. There's nothing to tell other than what date the company is closing their doors. This is one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because the other night we did that show with Cornercade, and it was like, is Arcade1Up dead? And I will be 100% honest. I said it on that, and I'll say it on this too. To some people, yes, Arcade1Up is dead. They're never going to be the company you want them to be. They're never going to release what you want. They're probably no longer the company they were back in 2021 or even 2022. They're not going to give you what you want, so they're dead to you. But because you're not interested, does that mean the company's going to go out of business? That's a pretty weird idea. A lot of people think that, like, oh, that company's not doing exactly what I want, they're going out of business. But what's the business rationale for that? Where's the mindset coming from? Like, if they're selling stuff that you don't like I don't like X-Men 97, and like, I wouldn't buy that. But apparently it was sold out. Like, obviously they're doing something right? So, I mean, they're probably going to stay in business, guys, even if you don't like them. I'm sorry.
And that one to me was a big gamble, because with a lot of other shows and things that have come out, usually they've completely just gone off the deep end and no one ends up liking them. But that one, X-Men 97, ended up being an amazing show. So it promoted the cab way more than, it probably would have if it was a terrible show. So I thought, because I was thinking, what if this show sucks? And they're sitting there and they have these cabs and no one wants to buy them because they hate the show. So for me, I think that if you really want a cab that's, an obscure cab that you're like, Arcade1Up is never going to do these, there's always an option to buy a cheap one. Like, I have some ones that I've bought super cheap off of Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and I just reskin them and make them what I want. That's your really only option, unless you want to buy the real thing. That's kind of where you have to go with it. Just, this is where it is now.
So, Jason, great guy, best moderator in the business, and also makes a lot of really good community comments, comes from a real rational place. I think a lot of the reason also people don't connect with Cyrus is, as much as you might have issues with John D, you could still connect with him because you knew he was of our vintage. He was in the arcades. He understood. So it felt like somebody that might have the same ilk, knowledge, passion like we have. Cyrus,
Hmm.
you don't get that because, you look at Cyrus and you're like, what's your favorite game? And he's like, they're all spectacular, Like,
It's
he didn't
it's
grow up in the arcades. He doesn't have
yeah.
any history. Like, he didn't have those defining moments like we did, like going and seeing TMNT for the first time and being like, oh my God, this is the absolute coolest shit in the world, right?
So how old is Cyrus? Do we know? Like, is he in his 30s? Is he in his
Uh,
20s? I have no idea.
I would say somewhere around late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around there. That's my guess.
Well, I'm mid 30s, so I'm like nostalgia age.
Oh, what did I
And
do here tonight?
you're like, click, you're off. Sorry. Um, so for me, I mean, I feel like you can have that connection, but some people just don't. I've always loved arcades. Whenever I was little, we had, went to Pizza Hut. First arcade I ever played was a Galaga that they had there, an old one, and it's just something that you can have. But again, it is something that usually a lot of people who are, have a little bit more gray in their beard, they're more into. And to have some kid that has never really had any experience, and they consider him a kid, they said you consider me a kid. If you're in your 60s, you're saying, hey, you're a kid that's never really had those experiences and doesn't really generate any type of enthusiasm towards it. um, it's just going to make you feel like he's just saying what you want him, what they want to hear, or saying nothing at all because he can't say anything. So it really just puts more of a bad light and negativity on on the company itself. It's just again, they talk whenever they shouldn't, and and they don't talk when they should, and it's like Cyrus, they just needed someone else in that spot.
You know what? As much as the community probably isn't going to like this, I know Cornercade's always like, they should do a weekly show. I think, honestly, the best thing Arcade1Up can do now is not talk to the community. Just do their own thing. Just sell products because I don't think it's going to do them any favors. And honestly, when they do talk to the community, there's no return on it. What's Arcade1Up's return for having community shows, doing stuff with the community? They get shit on. They get critiqued. Why would you do it? There's no return on investment if they don't have, and they're not ready to market to the community and stuff like that. Why do anything with them?
Yeah, and you think
There's
the past year with all the deluxes that were rehashes that came out, what would have it done for them to show up on a show and say, "Hey, we have another NBA Jam coming. Oh yeah, we got another Pac-Man coming," and just that would have just been again a massacre. They just would have tore them apart. How dare you do another one of these? And we've already had these 10 times before, and it wouldn't have been any benefit to them at all to do that.
Yeah, I think honestly, best thing they can do right now, just avoid the community. Just make your products and let the
That's
community
right.
speak for itself. Let people in the community who like your product talk about it. People in the community who don't like your product talk about it, and just do your thing. I think that's what they should do going forward. So there you go.
Yeah. Yep,
Probably not the
absolutely.
answer most people want. Like, I know Cornercade wants to, I want to be in there and ask Cyrus the hard questions. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to get the answers you want, right?
He always says, "Oh, we get in a room with him. We'll just lock the door and say
That's not
this." And
how
I'm
it
always like, "They're
works.
gonna call the police. They're gonna call the police, Carter Cade."
It's like that episode of The Office where they hold the pizza boy there. They're like, I'm going to get a
Yeah,
deal.
exactly. It's like you're gonna give me the coupon, or else you're not leaving. Yeah,
No, that's not my solution at all, Paul. But they're not marketing, communicating to the community. That's what I'm saying. If they're not going to honestly take a look at the company and feel that we're not just that 10%, that we might be the 90%, and actually, have some care and some importance. What's the point in working with the community if you don't have any heart into it? If you don't have any intention to follow through? Like, you're just putting on a facade there, right? And people are going to see through it, and then people are also going to be critical of it. I wish this was like a couple of years ago where we did have people in the community. John, as much as you want to be critical of him, at least he came out and he was listening, and he was trying to make stuff happen internally. Like, a lot of the stuff we wanted to see, a lot of the changes we wanted to see. But there's nobody there like that anymore now. So,
yeah, and that's something with John D. Is I've him. I loved his professional, side of things. There's some things with his personality as far as personally that I, didn't really click with. But I mean, if the guy got stuff done, the guy got stuff done. I don't care, how your
Yeah.
personality is. If you're giving me the cabs you want that I want, then you can be whoever you want at that time, that point in the day.
Yeah. So, we could just make this all about Arcade1Up the whole show, but I do want to talk about some of the negativity
Yeah.
towards other products because it
Hmm.
seems like the whole home arcade community is just fixated on picking apart everything at this point. So we'll get to AtGames in a
Yeah.
second, but I want to talk about some of the other companies like New Wave Toys, which is a company that make amazing products. Like their stuff is awesome. Love it. If you like arcade recreations and stuff like that, like the little 1/6
Hmm.
scale machines they make, like every single time they release one, they impress me with the attention to detail, the extra stuff they're looking to put in. And for people that say, oh, they're too small to play, yeah, these are mostly display units that have a
Yeah.
playability function, and they're mostly probably better used as like a playthrough, like a mini console, right?
Hmm.
Different ways to explain them like that, but their fan base have even started to turn really critical now. Like when they announced they were making that mini pinball machine that was mostly 100% decorative piece, non-playable, the community really turned on them. Like it went
Oh yeah.
nuts. And were you surprised by the negativity within the community about that decision?
Um. Yes, only because I think that we all thought that it was going to be playable, and we didn't really think of the actual intricate parts of making a tiny pinball machine.
Oh yeah, we all just
Like,
assumed they were doing it because Shiloh's
yeah,
crazy.
and yeah, and whenever that came out and it wasn't playable, I think that was the first like, are you what? Like it's not playable. So we all thought that that it was going to be playable, and then I think it continued on with the price point, and I think it just there was a huge shift at that point in time where people knew it would probably look good, but it wasn't what they expected at all.
And that negativity continued. The delays on
Hmm.
Zoltar, people are upset about that now, even though they reached out and they said, we're really sorry about this. We'll offer refunds. People are like, not good enough. Want my Zoltar. Where is it?
Could you imagine if another company, not to go back to Arcade1Up, but if Arcade1Up said, "Hey, if you ain't happy with this, we'll give you your money back immediately."
I
Like
didn't get any
people,
notice like that when I was waiting for like 6 months for my burger time.
no, yeah, exactly. It's like that is such a cool feature that they're even like, "Hey, you know what? We feel bad about the scenario, and we'll even give you your money back if you want." So I mean, you can't. What else could they do? Give you two Zoltars whenever they come out? I don't know what do you want. What else do you want?
Yeah.
It's one of those
Yeah.
things, yeah.
I'll give a big comment here. Bill Retro's Gaming Show makes a great comment. Give props to Shiloh. He's always front and center. He'll go out and explain it. If you don't like his answer, I mean that's the way it is. So 100% love that he did that. I also agree with what JJ said there, and it goes back to what Paul Minderman was talking about in a while ago. It does bother me. Like again, like people say we don't make the tough comments or something like that. That's fine in your opinion, but like most of us are trying to offer constructive feedback as best we can,
Mhm.
so these companies will make better. And it is really frustrating, like when you feel like you have your own thoughts and opinions, but it seems to be the community's sentiment. Like one is we want more XL cabs. How the company can just turn a blind eye to that and be like, whatever. So it's so frustrating, right? Like,
Absolutely. And yeah, especially whenever I mean, I felt like we as a community felt listened to whenever John D was around because he did come on shows and he did talk to us and he let us know things that he could. So, seeing New Wave Toys also do that, with the head guy, like that means a lot, I think, to the community. At least to me personally, it's like, hey, at least he's on here seeing what people are saying. If he doesn't agree, he lets you know, and he tells you what they're going to do next, which is absolutely what other companies do not do. So
yeah. And I really really like what New Wave Toys are doing. They're a small shop. They're putting out good stuff. A lot of people are critical of companies sending out review units. Like New Wave Toys, like their review units are not strategically placed or anything like that. I mean, like basically they have an open program that anybody could apply to on their website, that if anybody wants to be involved, you just go and you put your email there and they might send you a product. They pretty much send them out to everybody because they appreciate what people do, making reviews and stuff like that. And they're open to you being critical. So, I mean, like, I know that there's probably a lot of those review units that come out, but I appreciate that they try to get them out in somebody's hands, and they don't just put them out in the hands of people that are going to give them very positive reviews, right? Like, basically,
Yeah.
they just put a ton of them out there.
Yeah. What'd you think of the Slurp cups? Are you going to get some of those or?
It's difficult for me to get like New Wave Toys smaller products.
Oh yeah.
Like an example is they just did that sale on the boombox for like $20, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
screw it, I'm gonna get the boombox because it's ridiculous. For $20, I'll
Yeah.
get it. But then when I went to order it, the shipping was like $64. So it would have been $85 US to get it to me, and I was just like, I can't
Ah.
I can't pay that.
For me, I looked at it and I was like, okay, I don't have any nostalgia for the Slurp cup. So the only thing I thought I might use is the coins, and I was like, $20 there for a thimble? No,
Oh,
I don't think
you're
so.
not gonna use the
Sorry.
little pieces of gum.
Oh
I
no.
but like here's the, and going back to Arcade1Up that I find fascinating again. I'm okay with them releasing products that I'm not interested in, like the BMX bikes.
Yeah.
Do I care about the BMX bikes? No, not at all. But I don't, for some reason, think that's taking something away from me. That, oh, I'm missing out on a great arcade because you guys are releasing BMX bike mini replicas. But
Yeah.
that's the opinion in so many other communities. Like Arcade1Up puts out a casino cade. It's stupid. That's something I would never buy. I have no interest in. But then people are upset that they're like, wait a minute, I'm not getting my new cab, but you guys are releasing a casino cade. One doesn't really take away from the other. It's just they're
Yeah.
trying something else to make money or to do something else. Not everything has to be catered specifically to you.
Yeah. And that's again, if you really want something, you gotta go out and just make it yourself sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
that's what
I
you
mean,
gotta do.
well, the modding community's been doing that for years. Like it is what it
Yeah,
is, right?
yeah. I wanted a Battletoads arcade cab for a long time, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna make it, and then I just made my own. I mean, it's just what you got to do. So,
But
if you don't like it, there's something you can do.
I do want to say New Wave Toys, I don't like the negativity very much there because they're such a responsive company. Like, they really listen to the community. Like, back when they first did their CRT filter on the Missile Command, I was like, I hate this thing. I hate that you're stuck with this filter. Like, it really takes away from the experience. For some reason, people were like, oh, it's not that bad. But, like, I really didn't like it. I was pretty critical about it. They kept trying to improve that experience. Like, they actually listened to the fan feedback, and that's what you want to see a company do. But it's a whole different animal, right? Because New Wave Toys, small shop, depends directly on that 10% core fan base. Arcade1Up, big shop. Well, they're a small shop now, but they're catering to the 90%, less responsive to the comments from the community now. So it's a little bit concerning. New Wave Toys does,
Yeah,
they can react and do better stuff quickly.
and I feel like too, it's the criticism towards them is because it hurts because it's you can tell their heart's in it.
Yeah.
Shiloh, whenever he gets on there, he's really active with the community. You can tell that he really wants to make a good product that's at a good price that people will enjoy, and he's not just doing this, like Glenn. Like, it's not 100% for profit. He really wants to make things that people are going to love and help them in their arcade experience. So whenever you're criticizing, you know, New Wave Toys, it's like, oh man, but it's not for the same reasons you're criticizing, Arcade1Up, because Arcade1Up seems more like a big company compared to New Wave Toys. So it's the heart of the matter, man. It's just the heart of the matter.
Company's got to have a soul, right? So
Yes, yes.
moving on, Numbskull Quarter Arcades, they get a little bit of negativity, but not in the same way. I find with Quarter Arcades, it goes back to that price point because they're a little bit on the pricey end. I mean, their cabs are up around $300, $400, I think Turtles was, and stuff like that. So you get into the comments again about little mistakes, and one of the ones that people found really damning with the Turtles cab was I think they used some AI to generate the cab, or they did something along those lines. Because if you look at the side art, there's a glitch in there where you see like some weird extra toes from Michelangelo and stuff in the side art.
See, I
I don't
hadn't
know how that
heard
made it to
much.
the final copy, but
Yeah, it's almost like someone should have been looking over little bit better. Um, so how? Yeah, I guess that is an issue. That if I paid 300 or 400 bucks for a 1/4 scale, I might be upset if the art wasn't right. I mean, that's a lot of money.
yeah,
To be forking out for something that you really, like you said, isn't really playable. I mean, it's nice looking. You
that
can kind
one,
of play on it.
the quarter arcades are a little bit more comfortable to play with, and like you are
Yeah.
forced, you have to play on that. They don't offer an HDMI out like New Wave Toys does, or they do offer controller ports on that one though.
Okay, so at least you have controller ports. I don't. Yeah, that's pretty tough because I'd have some complaints if I paid that much and it's not 100%, arcade authentic as much as you can
Yeah,
with that size. Like I definitely would have some complaints about that. So I kind of get that criticism to a certain degree. Um, but is it enough to, you know, bash and be negative on the whole company as a whole because there's an extra toe on a turtle? I don't know. Like, yeah.
I'd have to give you a more of a frame of reference. I don't have the picture here in front of me, but like another time I'll show you. I'll send a picture out about it because a little hard
Yeah.
to find it now. So there's not that much. I think mainly the criticism when it comes to quarter arcades is the price point. And again, people will say it's too small to play. It's desk shit. It is what it is, right? Desk shit,
Yeah, yeah.
collectible shit.
That's what I've kind of noticed too. Is I bought a lot of the New Wave Toys ones. I have I think 6 or 7 of them, and I think they're awesome.
Oh, they're
But
so
people come
cool.
over and they're like, oh
Oh,
yeah,
you're
it's
not
little
gonna play
arcades,
with them.
and then they move on. Like they don't even care. It's like I have statues and stuff of different characters and things, and people just kind of look at them like, oh yeah, and then they move on. Like it's more for you than it
Yeah.
is for anything else. If you really love that arcade and you want that experience, but yeah, it's definitely desk crap.
Yeah. So the solutions are to
I,
ignore
I,
colors. That's not my solutions, Paul. That's not what I'm saying. No, I hear you. I think Arcade1Up should be listening more to the community. I think they should be focusing more on what their 10% want, especially right now, if they are in an economic situation where they're up against it. I mean, I've said for years, I don't understand how they don't do some kind of like Kickstarter direct to consumer for their core fan base. That's where they're going to be able to jack up their profits again. I mean, if the retailers aren't working with them currently, fall back on your core fans, your hardcores that are going to buy stuff. Throw a direct to consumer Kickstarter up for some XL cabs. That might be the answer. That's my answer. I don't know what their answer is. I have no idea.
yeah, and that's there's several things you can take away from the conversation we're having here, and if that's what you get, then that's what you get from it, I guess. But there's certain companies that I think need to have different strategies
Yeah.
when it comes to Arcade1Up. You know, at a certain time they needed to talk a lot more. They needed to communicate a lot more. They need to say things. Getting a roadmap would have been nice. Even now, like, hey, what are we doing this year? What's going on? But there's times where is it a benefit to the company to talk? That's what they you have to look at. Okay, so right now, if all they have is rehashes that they're doing because of what's going on in the company, then it's not really a benefit to talk to anyone. Now,
Yeah.
if you're new with toys and you have an issue with your product and you're going, you want to tell people what's going on and things are moving in the right direction, yeah, talk to people. So again, there's just a time to be quiet and there's a time to talk. And Arcade1Up needs to not talk, and that just where they are right now until something happens.
So I want to kind of bring this all together and tie it up in a nice bow. So I want to switch over now to AtGames, and I'm finding a lot of negativity with AtGames that I don't know if it's merited or not for a lot of different reasons. So number one is they released the ALP 4KP. I finally got one this weekend. I finally tested it out. So the big thing people are fixated on right now is the Zen games don't work the way people want them to. There's flipper lag, and what people say with flipper lag is completely unplayable. So I have always played Zen Pinball on my AtGames Legends Pinball through OTG using what's the flipper thing? Joy to Key. Joy to Key. I've always had some degree of flipper lag with Joy to Key while playing. So for me, I'm playing it. I definitely notice the flipper lag. It's definitely there, but maybe it's not as I don't know what the right term for that is. Maybe it's not as I'm going into it expecting it because I already know there's flipper lag. I'm used to playing OTG through flipper lag, so for me, I'm still having fun, but like 100% there's flipper lag. But it's amazing how that is the focal point, and people are completely glossing over everything else the machine does and how cool it is. And I wonder if is this people who actually bought it and are disappointed, or people that want to be detractors to find a reason to shit on AtGames? What do you think?
Again, a lot of people's bread and butter is negativity. So they have to profit off of negativity in some way. So they're going anything that they hear that might be negative, they're going to just put at the forefront and just keep talking about it to get those views, as well as just be more popular amongst the community. But I think that if the company wasn't saying anything and they weren't saying, "Hey, we're going to Google and other companies to get this fixed," and that they knew of the issue and they're reporting on the issue, I'd have concerns and I'd be very negative. But if the company knows what it is and they're trying to work on it, what else can you ask of them? Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. These are the next steps in order to fix this. I mean, it's I don't know what else people expect from them. I'm sure they didn't want it to lag whenever it came to the flipper lags. That's not what the company expected to happen. But now that's there, it's like, hey, you know what? This is here and we try to fix it ourselves. We can't figure it out. So we're going to a bigger, huge companies that have all this tech background to help figure this out so that we can fix it for our customers. I don't know what else. If I had a company I was running, what else can you really do? I mean, that's all you can really do. So I don't feel like the hate. I understand when people are upset, but I don't feel like the hate should be as toned up as what it is.
So JJ brings up a really good point. If these machines didn't cost $1,500 plus, people might be willing to overlook things like flipper lag and tables that are behind schedule. And then Dave brings it up as well. So you might bring out a product that's full of bugs. So I agree. Like, once again, price comes into it here because we're going up into a different echelon. This is definitely a prestige product at the $1,500 price point, right? So people have a much higher expectation. And whenever a video game product comes out and it's in a beta mode, it's not really at its final form, people are always going to be upset about that. But, like, do you remember a couple of years ago, Assassin's Creed, I can't remember which one it was, got completely blown out of the water because the game came out with like all kinds of bugs, like people's faces disappearing. So, I mean, we saw that last year with Blitz and with MVC2, obviously coming out before they were fully cooked. Now, AtGames have this product out, and one of their, key titles, the Zen games, have this flipper lag, so it's a little bit frustrating. But I do want to bring up the point that both of you say. People are fixating on the $1,500 price point because that's the final price once the deals are over. But, like, people are still saying that. People who paid $1,100 and got the initial discount, they're like, I paid $1,500. So it's almost like they jump up. They turn on blinders when they want to complain. Like, you paid $1,100 and you expect something for $1,100. I get it. But yes, for somebody that's new considering buying it, your price point to buy it is $1,500 plus tax and shipping. So that's a fair statement. But for the people that paid $1,100 saying this is a $1,500 product, I just chuckle at that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's definitely one of those things where you have certain expectations, but it's really just a waiting game with at games. I don't feel like they're a company that's going to ignore things like Arcade1Up kind of does sometimes, and maybe 5 years or I guess a few years down the road they might fix it. If they're on top of it, I don't really feel like it's much of an issue. But I didn't buy one, so maybe if I would have bought one, I would have felt differently.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing, right? Like if you were really invested in it. But I find like even people that had no intention of buying it are just fixated on this. Like they're like, Adam's family has none. I think also maybe there's a little bit of misunderstanding, and I'm not trying to be too positive here, but I'm just trying to be pragmatic about this because people are fixating on the Pinball FX games. I mean, that machine does so much more than that. This is not an Arcade1Up where you're getting 3 games like Marvel vs. Capcom or NFL Blitz. I mean, this, even though it says Adams Family on it, and that's the title game, and I understand your frustration. I mean, this is a massive multi-pin, right? That lets you go get all the other games that work really well. I can tell you, I played a bunch of the Zachariah games, and they work so smooth and they look so good on this thing last night that, no one's talking about that. They just want to focus on the negativity from the flipper leg. And what about like the OTG mode? I know there was some kind of weird disconnect with OTG at first, but people keep talking about the bugs. I don't really see anything else other than mainly people are upset about the flipper leg on the Zen games.
Yeah, I know you mentioned chaotic BPR. He got his Mars Attack one, and he does bring out that there is flipper lag in Mars Attack, like, and it's not like he wanted that there, but a lot of the other games that he's played, he said run very smoothly and it's very nice. And again, that they're going to fix it eventually. It's not like they're just leaving you out, hanging you out to dry. That they're never going to fix these things, and you just got to deal with it for the rest of the time you own the pinball. So, again, I understand the frustration some people have that actually are buying the product and are having it shipped to them and find this lag. The people who are just, latching onto it and riding the wave to try and get, whatever clout they're trying to get, that's just funny to me. like,
So
like,
I understand what James hates everything saying there. Like if you bought it specifically for the Zen games, then the Zen games are
yeah,
disappointing. I get it. I understand what you're saying.
yeah,
I get what you're.
yeah.
And Bobby saying this, I think you might have misunderstood my analogy, or I didn't do a good job explaining it. I'm saying both are bad. I'm not saying not trying to justify one or the other. I mean, obviously, but like the flippers are bad in that specific game, right? The flippers in the Zachariah games are really good. I mean, like I played Gottlieb last night. That was really good. It's just the Zen that's the bad experience right now, right?
Yeah, and even you buy I don't know, an Xbox or a PS5 whenever they first came out, there's bugs and issues that they didn't realize were going to happen until after it got into consumers' hands, and it just took time to iron everything out, and now they all play great. So, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of time. I personally, would wait till they went on sale anyways, because I'm not someone who has the means to buy
Yeah.
a $2,000 pinball at the moment. But so for me, I'm like, I wait for a sale, and are going to have everything ironed out. So, I mean, it's pretty cool for me.
Yeah. There's other comparisons to pinball. I mean, like Nicholas
Yeah.
Diorio just bought a Jaws. His Jaws is still in beta mode. They don't have finalized code for that. But I mean, that's not really the same thing. But yeah, there you can go. Why I'm never an early adopter. Some people wait till it's all done, right?
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, I don't buy half of my console games until they're on sale. I mean, it's just whatever
Oh,
you
me
want to do.
too.
Some people they wait
There,
until they want it right out the gate, and other people are willing to wait a year. I'm
I have
willing to
su-
wait a year.
I have such a backlog. I have to do a time comparison. Like I'm really excited to buy this game, but am I really gonna get to play it within the next 6 months? If I don't think I'm gonna get to play it in the next 6 months, I'm like maybe I'll wait. Certain games I'll buy day one. Nintendo I'm a sucker for because I doubt they're gonna go on sale too. So like Mario, Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door. Oh yeah, I'm gonna buy that day one.
That's I'm playing Xenoblade 3 right now, and I'm like 30 hours in. So that's game's so old. It's like,
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
got that on sale. I got waited for an Amazon sale on that, and I got it for like 20% off or something like that. That's 100 hours, man. Like I did
yeah.
every side quest. I had a ton of fun with it, but like that's a long ass game. So,
Oh man.
but here's the thing about AtGames. I think a lot of the negativity that AtGames and these other companies are coming from now stems from the whole home arcade community maybe being in a place, like in a wave of negativity now. I think a lot of people are either frustrated that they're not getting what they wanted or something like that. So I think people are more, I don't know what the right term is, like more receptive to negativity right now at some place because they feel like, Paul Minderman was saying the company's not listening to me, company's not doing this. So there's a big reception to the negativity right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like a sponge where that negativity dropped, and anytime there's anything that pops up, it's like it gets sucked up immediately by a lot of people, and it definitely has a huge strand in the community right now. It's pretty bad. I mean, people are saying that it's dead, that the home arcade community is just dying off, and it's not what it was, not gonna lie, but I think it's far from dead. But people, they just, that's what they think is going to happen. Like everyone's just going to stop talking about it. I don't know what's
Well,
going to happen.
I
Like,
don't know if everybody's going to stop talking about it, but this is normal, man. Sometimes people just aren't as
yeah,
interested with the hobby anymore. They lose interest. That's totally fine too. Or they find something they're more interested in. Like we talked about it almost like a year and a half ago, and some people like ran with it and tried to make it something that it wasn't. But when the company's not doing a lot of stuff you're interested in, you're going to turn your attention to other things. You're not going to obviously just keep buying their shit blindly. Oh, well, it's something, I guess. I mean, obviously, you're going to get interested in other things. Like, I know a lot of the guys, Justin, B, they really got into pinball. I got into pinball too, but I don't exactly have Justin and B money, so I can't go and buy that stuff like them. But you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, if companies aren't doing as much as what you want and doing interesting stuff, yeah, you're going to get interested in other stuff. And that goes back to like a lot of people in the YouTube space. People find other interests. Like they'll watch other things, or if they're YouTubers, they'll talk about other things they're interested in because there's not as much interesting them in that space right now, right?
yeah. I love Bill's retro gaming shows comment. I love all these old arcade games. I hope all the companies go out of business.
But
Like,
that's the thing I don't understand.
it's like it's like
There's literally people that are just like, I want to see everything burn to the ground, but
like
why?
yeah. It's like, what are you gonna do after that though? It just it's sad that that's kind of where where people are. It's like I think there's certain people that don't understand that their whole channel is hate for this community, but once this community dies, they have no channel. And people, like you said, they go off and they have other interests, things like that. And I think COVID really made the Arcade1Up community, or not the home arcade community, like just
Oh,
bubble forward.
oh man,
Yeah,
I will tell you, this is such a unique thing. Like like even I've got
yeah.
friends that are giant YouTubers, massive YouTubers, and they don't have like a dedicated community for retro gaming or other things that come on board and like come to these live streams and interact in this community like we do. And it's all from some like weird, bizarre like COVID connection where we were all stuck home and this product came out in a perfect storm and we all stupidly bought a bunch of Arcade1Ups, right?
Well, for us, me and my wife, we used to go to the barcades. I know you went to like 16-bit in Cleveland.
Yeah,
We used
yeah.
to go to some of those and things, and COVID happened, and it's like, hey, I can, figure out how to mix some of these drinks so we could buy a few of these arcades. And, it's like we're at the arcade bar, and then it escalated,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Man, I wish we had an arcade bar here.
Yeah.
I This weekend I went to a bowling place, and I had heard about this place before, but like I was worried about the condition of their machines, so we went up to this bowling place this weekend with our kids, And when we went in, there's no food or drink in, so it's not a barricade by any means. It's like a kids' fun place. So you go in, and the guy's got it decked out with a bunch of like, Flappy Bird and these redemption machines new. But he does have some older arcades there and some really fun stuff. Like they're not in great shape. So he's got like an Outrun 2, which is a real gem of an arcade machine. I was excited to see. But of course, you go up to the monitors, and he's got like, really cheap TVs stuck in instead of CRTs. Time Crisis 4. The Time Crisis 4 actually had the TV shell. Didn't the TV's too small for the actual opening where the CRT was? So you can actually see the shell of the TV. So you can see the Westinghouse logo on the TV, the LCD put in there. You're like, come on, man. If you're gonna put LCDs in, go at least get the Unico, 26 inches or something. Do something that's good. So,
Yeah.
but like at least it was something, and I got a little bit excited. Play some Time Crisis, and it was weird. I didn't have any nostalgia for Time Crisis at all, or any real emphasis to really even think about buying the Arcade1Up one. But it was like this weird old twitch or fire that came into me. I was looking at the Time Crisis 4, and I played it a bit, and I was like, maybe I do want a Time Crisis. I don't know.
And that's what it's all about. It's like you look at these machines, and again, Arcade1Up, it's not the real thing by any means, but it's like it kind of drives something in you to be like, you know what, this would be cool to have an experience that reminds me of my past experience, my nostalgia for this, and just be able to play it and have some fun. So, I really think that's pretty awesome. If you ever do come back to Ohio, which I don't think you ever will,
I
but
might. I was invited back. Cleveland Gaming Classic invited me to come back again.
there is, I know Columbus, Ohio. It's about 2 hours away. But my favorite arcade bar is one called Old North, and it's in Columbus. And Columbus is more of a college town,
Yeah.
and they have way more barcades, things like that, and a lot of younger kids go to them. But they do have a real food fight in there, like an actual original food fight,
Yeah.
and that's the one I go to every time because I'm like, this looks glorious. I love everything about this machine. If Arcade1Up did that, oh yeah, if they could pull it off.
You know what's weird? I think if there was a place like that I could go to, I don't know if I would have got as into Arcade1Up as I did, to be honest. Like, if there was places for me to go, like, play pinball and play, like, classic arcades, like I had a real barricade here, I don't know if I would have had this, because a lot of this that I had all came from the sense that we just didn't have it anymore. There was nowhere to go play classic arcade games. So for me, this was as close as that nostalgia was ever going to be, right?
Yeah, and for us to get to Columbus is about an hour and a half, so it's not something we could just pop in the car and drive up the road to go do. So yeah, it's definitely a good time though. So I know in Cleveland though, it seemed like the barcades there wasn't very many of them. There was like one or two, and I was like, this is it. You think in Cleveland there would be a ton of them, but yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
I was really surprised by the clientels at these barricades. Like, I expected it to be like, us. And then you go there and there's all these like 20-year-old kids out on dates and stuff. And you're like, the hell is going on here?
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I go to the one in Columbus is the same way because it's a college town, so you have a
Yeah.
bunch of kids that are in their 20s, and you're just like, well, I feel old. Like, yeah, I'm just in here for the arcades, and they're in here to date. That's kind of how it is.
Nicholas with the comment of the year. iArcade has released just as many new titles as Arcade1Up this year. Anyways,
That's another thing we didn't get to talk about the arcade
oh,
side of it too. That
oh man.
negativity that happened, and
Oh my God, iArcade got absolutely crucified, and there was such a confusion there between constructive criticism because I loved iArcade. I loved my iArcade. I liked Michael. I liked Jong. I wanted to see the company succeed, and I would bring up the fact that this company really needs to go and get some games. And anybody who wants to say that's me being negative, what world do you live in? Every single console that came out, one of the normal critiques of a console is based on the games that are on there. If they don't have certain games, the console won't be successful. You go back to the
exactly.
TurboGrafx 16. Why did it fail? The biggest reason is it just didn't have the third party or the first party support it needed. You go back to why wasn't the Saturn more successful? Well, obviously PlayStation cut it off at the legs with that $2.99 announcement, but like people just weren't making games for the Saturn. Nintendo GameCube, people weren't making
Yep.
games for it. They're making them for the PlayStation 2. So anybody who wants to get mad at me for, saying iArcade isn't bringing the right games to the system, that's a real criticism. And I think more people would have been okay with the iArcade if the fan base wasn't so crazy, like trying to defend it, saying the games on iArcade are awesome. Like some of the ones that they would preach and be like, "Oh, Ninja Clowns is AAA." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Well, and for my earlier example, it's like, again, a Tesla. It's like people have to defend those so much to make them out to be great cars. And it's like the more you defend it, the more it looks like a good car because you have to defend it so much. That's the way I felt with the arcades. It's like the more you had to sit here and try and make it look good, the less I thought it was a good item. Like it's just what it
Like
was. Like
the machine itself was awesome. The build quality, the quality of the materials, the sound. People tried to be critical of the screen. It did have a TN monitor, but like I didn't have a lot of the issues with the other TN monitors. It was pretty good, well backlit. Really, where the iArcade failed was the games. Like even though they didn't have, other than Space Invaders, any original like recreation arcades, the art was really cool, and there was so much. I wanted that company to succeed so bad, but like no matter how you cut it, it was never going to succeed unless they brought specific games to it that were going to entice people. And if it wasn't, they couldn't go and get the AAA classic arcade games. They had to look to other avenues. And I don't know what they were doing. In the end, they just went for quantity of trying to bring shit out there. So I know people brought up with John D blocking them from bringing games to the iArcade. It wasn't so much that he was trying to intentionally block the iArcade as that is how he did licensing. I mean, John would have exclusive partnerships. That was the whole idea. He would come to a company and that was their trade-off for whatever they would get in their package. Like, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars. We're going to do year over year over year cabs with increasing returns, but we want exclusive licensing rights to these games. We don't want another company to be able to undercut us and just go deliver it.
yeah, and what else? The reason why I never bought an iArcade is because of Console Fanboy. Whenever he went on there and he told, like, "Hey, you can buy all these on Switch," and I was like, "You can?" So I got an Intech deck, Switch, and I put it in an old Arcade1Up, and that was I was like, "Well, I have an iArcade right now."
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're fine with doing that, I hated that argument though because like
Yeah,
it's fine if people want to buy them on Switch and stuff like that, but it was about
yeah,
playing them in the arcade experience. Some of the games didn't translate well to arcade. They did try to throw a lot of shit at the wall, but a lot of stuff was a lot of fun. It was cool to play. I mean, like Wizard of Walls is a game that should be played on an arcade, not a Switch. Um, you know,
yeah,
Saturn is a game that should be played on an arcade, not a Switch. So
yeah. Yeah, that I almost bought one, and that was whenever they went on sale for like is it 250 or $300? That was right at the end. They all went on sale real cheap, and then I was like, I don't know, I'll hold off. And then it was like a week or two later, they're like, oh, we're going out of business, like we're done. And I was kind of glad I didn't end up buying it because then it would have been just kind of sitting there because I wouldn't have had a company to buy any games off of. Or if I did the Glenn's mod with the deck, that's the only thing I could really do with it. It just would have kind of been sitting there.
yeah, I felt bad about that. I canceled my Glenn's deck as well because I got nervous because I had the gold at the time, and the A Custom Arcade modding board came out, and there was doubt on whether or not they'd even be able to get a board working to mod the iArcade Gold. So I was like, I don't know if I really want this anymore. If I can't mod it, I don't know if I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I was also in a weird spot where I lost like my arcade. I had to give up space, so I had these arcades that were floating. like in different rooms from time to time, kind of in the way that at some point I had to cut bait and I had to get rid of. So I didn't get Glenn's deck. And honestly, I'm okay with not getting Glenn's deck. I have an ALU. I mean, the extra
Yeah.
functionality that he was offering with the trackball and the spinner, I could play those games on my ALU. So for me, on the multi-card arcade aspect, it didn't add anything there. Now, his Viper board, that's a different story. Like,
Yeah.
seeing that he can do that now with the iArcade Gold, I wish I had hung on to my gold. And hell, I might still go and rebuy a gold if I can get one for the right price now with Glenn's Viper deck coming out.
Absolutely.
Thor KC says, my counter to that criticism is that between Moon Patrol, Dragon's Lair, Double Dragon, and Saturn, I have now replayability of classic arcade games than any Arcade1Up. Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I love all those games. I will say I do prefer the Dragon's Lair trilogy on the Arcade1Up. I know I'm going to get crucified for that because everybody's going to be like, oh, there's audio issues. But even playing it through, yeah, I know. I don't worry, I got one coming. I bit the bullet one more time. I got a Dragon's Lair coming. When it went on sale, I went and got one, so it'll be here on the 16th. But
Awesome.
even playing through the little one, the fact that you have the game in the right aspect ratio, and then you have the scoreboard where it should be, that's one of those unique games that really, plays better to a recreation than playing it on multicade, in my opinion.
I actually had my neighbor. He's never been in my basement before because there's no real reason. But I told him about the arcade down here, and he came down just to look at it. And the first arcade was Dragon's Lair. He was like, "Oh my gosh, you have a Dragon's Lair!" And he was just like, "I spent so many quarters on this machine," and he played it, and he had such a good time with that thing. And it's just one of those ones that I feel like a lot of people that come to my the Boiler Room arcade, like a lot of people don't get it, but the people who do get it love that arcade. Like it's one of those masterpieces that just brings you right back to that.
Yeah. So we're almost out of time. We're definitely out of time because we went 2 hours. I like talking about this stuff, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I keep you so long every week.
I'm a blabbermouth too, so I've
Yeah.
told other streams I've been on. I'm sorry. I like to talk and I don't stop. It's just one of those things.
I think like nothing's changed. I still think a lot of the critique in the community, yeah, it's warranted, man. Like I think that some of these companies do some stupid stuff, but in terms of them being like, I don't know, like just these evil entities that deserve to shut down. I don't get that mentality. Like there's still people out here that enjoy that. Why are you trying to, take away like
Yeah.
stuff that's fun for people? I just don't get it.
If it's not affecting you, I don't
Well,
really see why.
that's why
It's
I
just
put
like,
that's why I put X-Men 97 and Casino Cade there. People don't like those. They're like, I don't like the art. It's not an original arcade. I think the Casino Cade is stupid. What does it matter? It's just two
yeah,
products you don't have to buy. They didn't stop products coming
yeah,
out that you would have bought. It's just, just move on. Like, if you don't like something,
yeah.
just keep on trucking, man. There's lots of other stuff out there to be interested in. And hopefully, this whole community is not going off the rails because I want to see these other companies be successful. New Wave Toys possibly coming out with, a larger scale cab. I'm super excited about that because New Wave Toys aren't aren't held under the same restrictions that Arcade1Up are. They do deal with direct to consumer, so they can do more wild and wacky stuff. And John D, he might be coming out with stuff. So yeah, who
Yeah,
cares?
like what you like, and someone asks me an opinion on an arcade, I'll give it to them. But if you end up saying, you know what, that's dog poop, and I'm gonna go buy it anyways, and you buy it anyways, it doesn't really affect my life. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
I love Burger Time, but I
yeah,
wish Burger Time had more of that Pac-Man shape with the new Pac-Man cabs where it has the more
yeah,
accurate side panel and then Peter Pepper's stuff coming out on that. And I wish it didn't have four joysticks. I just wish it had one joystick in the middle that was a four-way stick.
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I actually plan on replacing the joysticks in this one because they're still the 8-ways.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to mess up Burger Time Babe. That's her cab, and I asked her like, "Hey, I can make it 4-way sticks, but if it affects your gameplay, I don't want to mess with anything." And she's like, please replace them." And I'm like, "All right, I'll replace them."
I was so
uh,
heartbroken because I finally got my Burger Time cab, and I'm not a modder by any means. I'm not a fixer. So I finally got my Burger Time, being one of the website orders. Finally got it, and the down button on Player One controller didn't work. I couldn't go down.
uh,
And what it was at the time, I don't know if you remember, that Arcade1Up put those gates, the diagonal gates in to try to
right.
fix the issue.
The
So
restrictors.
yeah, the restrictor gates. They changed the
Yeah,
restrictor gates.
yeah.
So they changed the restrictor gates, and when they did, the guy who went in and changed mine cut one of the cables and for the down input off my button, off my controller. So I had to get my brother in to give me a crash course in soldering to fix it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just one of those things, man. But yeah, it is what it is.
Anyways, guys, I won't be here next week. I'm going to be traveling next week, so don't expect a bunch of content from me either. And I hate using that word. Don't expect to see me much on YouTube next week. So I won't be doing chill and chat because I'm going to be in Calgary Monday night. So I'm not going to do it from my hotel. So no chill and chat next week, and I don't know if I'll be making any videos. I'm going to be pretty busy at work at this conference because we go like right in the morning until right at night. I might get out and try to film some, if I get to an arcade or a cool restaurant, something like that. But don't expect a lot of stuff from me next week. Go watch all these other awesome people on YouTube talking about this stuff,
Yeah.
especially these young, excited people into this hobby that haven't had the long history like we've had with all this stuff going on.
Yeah. And if you're wanting some content, Arcades Anonymous is on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock. So please feel free to stop on by there. Bunch of fun we have on that show, and just a good group of guys. And join our Discord too. On there, Mike's in there too. We play every Sunday night. We get together. Anyone can join, and we usually end up playing Mario Kart or something that everyone has. So just a good time. And again, the community, just a place where we can get together and have some fun.
Yeah, and guys, I think Cornercade's got a show coming up right now, so you can go watch him. He asked me to join, but it is 12:39 my time, so my wife will kill me if I stay up much longer. So I'm actually going to try to go to sleep on time tonight. A couple other things. What did I want to say? Oh, I was telling you about this earlier. Weird enough, people were saying to me, "Oh, you're going to open a hornet's nest with tonight's discussion." I don't care about that, guys. I don't watch what anybody else says. People wrote me before I went on Danny's show and said, "Watch out for OTG," saying a bunch of stuff about you on Zodwriter's show the night before. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. It's totally fine.
Yeah. Just keep doing what you're doing, right?
That's
Just
right.
keep trucking on.
Anyways, I did want to bring that up. I thought that was funny, so don't worry about that, guys. I'm not too concerned about that. Other than that, everybody go have fun. Go do whatever the hell you want to do. And maybe let's not try to fixate so much on the little things that might be going, awry with some of these products and stuff like that. Focus on more of the fun stuff. Call the companies out when they're accountable. They 100% deserve it. Provide constructive criticism. But don't try to make the world burn. It's not going to do anybody any favors. Anything else you want to say before you go, Galaga Guy?
I just want to say, with all the hate that negativity that we do have, none of us would be here right now watching the stream if it wasn't for Arcade1Up and AtGames and New Wave Toys and everyone else. So there's always a little credit we can give to them that they brought us all together. So yeah, just if you ever have that negativity come upon you, just remember, like, hey, that's what we're all here for, is to have fun and play arcades at home. And we're so glad that we met each other in one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, we wouldn't even be talking right now. We wouldn't have been in Cleveland without this stuff. And Kong Zeros has got to go ahead.
I said I couldn't get a bear hug from you in Cleveland. You give a bear hug, man. I was like, whoa, okay, yeah.
I'm a hugger. I can't help it. Kong Zeros says, "Don't sweat the petty things and don't pet the sweaty things, but always take an opportunity for heavy petting." Thank you, Conzeros. I read it between the lines to get that. Anyways, one last super chat before we go from James Hates Everything, $5. Great discussion. Let John D dance us out. I think we'll close that way. Good night, everybody. Thank you so very much. Go watch Cornercade or whatever you want to watch. Have a wonderful night. It's fantastic. I love that video so much.
Absolutely.